Tammy Beilstein. This week on Highway 49, we explore Calaveras County. Located 100 miles east of San Francisco, Calaveras, which means skull in Spanish, is the most famous county the 49 highway passes through. Mark Twain in 1865 reworked a tale he'd heard in the California goldfields, and within months, the author and the story, the celebrated jumping frog of Calaveras County, had become national sensations. And in 1883, the notorious bandit Black Bart was apprehended and put on trial here. Today, Calaveras County is home to PAWS, the Performing Animal Welfare Society's ARC 2000 Wildlife Sanctuary, and New Melones Lake, the 5th largest reservoir in the state of California. Most of the small towns in Calaveras County aren't famous, but are full of gold rush history. And today, one of these historical towns, Mokelumne Hill, is our first stop on Highway 49. The first thing you'll notice when turning onto historic 49 in Mokelumne Hill is just how peaceful and quiet it is here, only a half block from the main highway. With a population of only 800, Mokelumne Hill has got to be one of the most tranquil little towns you'll find anywhere in California today. In the middle of town, it's obvious from the numerous buildings remaining from the 1800s that this is a town full of history. The local residents are really proud of their gold rush history, and today we are really proud to have Julia Costello with us. She is from the Mokelumne Hill Historical Society, correct?
Yes.
Good, I got it right.
Very good.
I'm so glad you're here. What can you tell us about Mokelumne Hill?
Well, welcome to Mokelumne Hill.
Thanks.
And since we're bypassed by Highway 49, we like it when people turn off and come into our historic town.
Sure.
And this was, as the locals like to point out, the county seat from 1852 to 1863.
Oh, it was.
And so we have, in the early years, this was one of the largest towns in the Mother Lode. And on those early maps, Mokelumne Hill is always featured on, early maps of the Gold Rush country. And now, it's a little spot that people drive by.
Oh, it is adorable. I love it here. Love it.
That's wonderful. But we have our famous landmarks in town, and the Hotel Leger is really the heart of town, and it's one of the oldest establishments still running. It was a tent Hotel de France back in the 1850s, and then George Leger got involved in 1853, and it grew over the years to incorporate the old courthouse, and it's still the heart of town. The locals gather there, and that's where you have weddings and receptions and birthday parties and just hanging out with friends and drinking.
You know what, speaking of names, and I don't mean any offense at all, but the word Mokelumne is odd. Is that someone's name, or does that mean something? Where did that come from?
It's an Indian word.
Oh, okay.
And so like Tuolumne, it's the same ending. Tuolumne County, the Umne ending means people of.
Okay.
And so when the early explorers came, they were traveling with the Yokuts, who were down in the Central Valley, and they would ask the Yokuts, what are the name of the people that live up there? So actually it's a Yokut name for the people who lived here. So Tuolumne was the people on the Tuol, and the Mokelumne were the people on the Mokul, on the Mokul.
Mokul, okay.
I mean, I'm simplifying it a bit, but that's essentially how it got its name.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But it's mispronounced worldwide, so we can distinguish a local from not if they stumble over Mokelumne.
Some people just shorten to Moke.
So everybody practice that.
Yeah. Well, gosh, is there someplace special you want to take us or tell us about? There are so many neat buildings here in this town.
Well, while we're standing here, we could look at the courthouse. That's one of our oldest.
Where is that?
It's right across the street here.
Okay. Is it the blue or the?
No, it's actually looks like part of the Hotel Leger. So there's the long uniform color, but if you look at the top roof line, you can see that the cornice is different and that the window toppings are different, and we have the iron doors in the bottom. So that 3 openings on the bottom, 3 on the top, that is the old courthouse. Dates to 1854, stone building. Mokelumne had fires like most of the gold rush towns, and the first really devastating devastating fire was in 1854, and all of the wood buildings burned down, and tents, virtually all of them. But the town has a wonderful rhyolite quarry nearby. Rhyolite's that wonderful stone that you can cut easily. Angels Camp has a nice quarries there, and they have rhyolite. But Mokelumne Hill had a quarry. So after the 1854 fire, we had all these stone buildings coming up because merchants said, it's a going town, I want my business here, but I don't want it to burn down every few years. So we have all these stone buildings, and that's one of them that dates to just after the 1854 fire. So we're walking along this group of storefronts that really hasn't changed much in over 100 years.
Yeah.
And they were built, of course, by people who had something particular in mind, but they became over the years grocery stores or bars or shops or incorporated, and so their stories changed. You can't just say it was always
one thing.
Always one thing. We have about 5 locations of Wells Fargo in town, but people like to say, this is the Wells Fargo building, and you go, well, it was for 5 years or 3 years or something.
This is a neat building.
This is great. This is one of the earliest buildings, 1854. We talked about how after the fire, the rhyolite, they were built out of rhyolite. So here you have the stones that were quarried just outside of town, and they peck the surface like this. See these little peck marks?
Why did they do that?
To make a texture for the plaster to hold on to.
Oh, okay.
And modern houses do that now too, rip wrapping or texturing so that the plaster can grip onto it. So this once would have been covered with plaster, but nowadays we like to see our stone underneath.
I like it like this.
I know.
I love it. And the big doors and windows.
And iron shutters, and again, that was against the fires, against theft, but mostly against fires. And often the high ceilings, you have, of course, the high ceilings and a wooden ceiling, and then the space above it would be filled with 1 or 2 feet of dirt. And over that would be the roof. So if fire went from roof to roof, the dirt would not let it spread down in the building. It was the early insulation.
Oh, how smart.
Fireproofing. And available and inexpensive.
Right. Find it anywhere.
Find it anywhere.
Oh, that's neat. Do you know what this building was?
This was a grocery store. There were 3 buildings. There's a wonderful old lithograph that shows these 2 buildings and then an arch in between. And so this was the southern of the 2 buildings, and it had a store. I think it was the Hodop store. And then in the middle building was the butcher shop, Gebhardt.
Oh, neat.
And then the building on the right, I forget, but they were kind of entrepreneurs got together and they made a little group, and they built this whole facade, but it survived well up until now. Yeah. Okay, so Mokelumne Hill has 2 main streets in town, Main and Center, and we're walking toward the intersection of Center and Main, which is the heart of town. And this, of course, is one of the most looked at and photographed buildings in town, and it's known as the IOOF Hall.
IOF?
IOOF, the International Order of Odd Fellows.
Okay.
And this was a very popular fraternal organization back in the 1850s and 60s and 70s, and many towns have an IOOF hall. And the building itself, 2 stories of it were built by 1854 after the fire, the same Rhyolite building. And then the Odd Fellows purchased the building and added the 3rd floor because they always had to have their room where they had their ceremonies high enough above the town so nobody could see in the windows. Who knows what secret things? We don't know. We don't know. Odd things went on.
And what is this now?
Well, it's owned by Randy Sparks of the New Christie Minstrels.
I love Randy.
I know. He's a wonderful asset to the town. He's just great. He gives fundraisers to raise money for our town hall and writes songs about Mokelumne Hill and the buzzards and all of the characters up here. But he mostly, there was a wonderful bar, Adams and Company, which was operated downstairs for about 30 years. His wife Diane operated that. But now it mostly stores his treasures that he's collected from all over the country.
Oh, I would love to see those.
Oh, well, you talk to him. He'll probably let you in.
Does he open it up and let the public come inside, or not anymore?
No.
Not anymore.
No. The bar, of course, was open to the public, but it's just one little room. But the rest of it, no, it's just his private place.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is so neat. You know what's neat to me is that out of any place in the world he could live, or other famous or wealthy people that are from Calaveras County, that they choose here to live. They could live anywhere, but they choose little towns like Mokelumne or San Andreas. It's just really neat.
Maybe if they're in the limelight so much, they want a place where it feels small and intimate and close and quiet, and a place to retreat to, and not out of the hustle and bustle of the entertainment world.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Well, I am so glad he's here. Julia, where are we now?
We're walking up Center Street toward the intersection of Center and Main, our downtown, and we're walking in front of the Sturgis building, built of rhyolite after the 1854 fire, like so many of our buildings.
I love the feel of it.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah.
And you can see all the cut marks. This has some really nice detailing.
It does.
See around
It
the
does.
edges. And it has the name of the building carved on the side.
Oh, it's neat.
But
It's almost like it has little thumbprints for the decoration in part of it. But go ahead. Yeah.
But it used to be a two-story building. And so it was, and then there was a fire in the 20th century, in the 1940s or 50s, I forget, and they took the top story off and rebuilt it next to it as a one-story building. So it looks today as though you've got these two old, hand-cut rhyolite buildings, when actually it's the same building just set down next to itself.
That with all the same stones and rocks and everything. You just rebuilt next door.
Rebuilt next door.
Connected.
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
That's how we make more historic buildings out of one.
You double them that way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat. Well, we are back under the Hotel Leger sign.
If it were open, we could go in and have a drink.
Oh, that would be great. I know they have a beautiful bar in there and
it's very comfortable.
Rooms and everything.
Yes.
Love it. I cannot thank you enough.
I am so glad you came, and come back anytime. We will throw open our doors and entertain you.
I would love to. Are you available to give tours if an out-of-town person stopped in Mokelumne Hill and wanted to get a little bit of history from someone?
Well, they could ask anyone in town. And actually, that little book I've been carrying around, our telephone book, Mokelumne Hill has its own phone book, for the town.
That little thing?
And in it is maps and all our historic buildings and a description of them.
Really?
And so with the phone book, everybody in town is a tour guide.
So come on by and get a phone book.
At the library. You can buy them at the library.
Okay. Hey, thank you so much. This
you.
is awesome. Wow, thanks a ton.
Come back.
I will. Another historical section of Highway 49 in Calaveras County is Main Street in San Andreas. Here you will find lots of buildings from the mid-1800s, and the one I'm in front of right now is the original Calaveras County Courthouse. It's now home to the Calaveras County Historical Society and Museum. Let's go take a look inside. Now, when you enter this building, to the left you'll find the Calaveras Historical Society, and to the right there's the bookstore and gift shop. And straight ahead of me is Glenn Wasson. He is the local actor, author, storyteller. Hi, Glenn.
Hi. And also purveyor of unreliable information.
Oh, that's awesome. We need someone for that.
Nevertheless, people come and hear me anyway. Apparently, they like to be lied to, and I have established my reputation as the chief liar in the local area.
Do you have that on your business cards?
Well, that would help, but no, I just go around the country and tell people stories that they may or may not like to hear, but they come anyway.
Oh, that is so wonderful. I am so glad that we've got you for this program here. Are you going to be able to give us a little tour of this place?
Yes, I'd be glad to take you for a short walk through the museum.
All right.
There are a lot of interesting things to see here. And if you've never been here before, you ought to spend half a day here.
Thank you.
Let me take you upstairs to the old courtroom.
Okay. So we're making our way upstairs here. I see straight ahead is the county recorder office, county auditor. What else do we have here?
Oh, we've got a lot of old reproductions of kitchens and parlors and various items of furniture and artifacts that they used in the old days.
And this is a Superior courtroom.
Yes, this was the main courtroom for Calaveras County. Many famous cases were tried here. Perhaps the most memorable of them all was when they brought Black Bart here.
Ooh, tell me about that.
Oh, well, they caught him in San Francisco. He was leading a double life there. And when they brought him out here to San Andreas, he had held up the Wells Fargo stage up on Funk Hill, and he had hid about $30,000 worth of amalgam in a hollow log. And the Wells Fargo officials and the detectives that they had hired to catch Black Bart were willing to plea bargain with him if he would show them where he hid the gold. So he took Sheriff Ben Thorne and a whole passel of local folks up to Funk Hill and showed him where the gold was. And so then they sentenced Black Bart. But even though he had held up the Wells Fargo stage on 29 different occasions, they let him off fairly easily. He only got 8 years in San Quentin. And he got out in less time than that because of good behavior. But this is the courtroom where they sentenced Black Bart.
Oh, boy. Is it true that he used a gun, but he never shot at anyone? Is that true?
That's true. When they found his shotgun in his quarters in San Francisco, you could see it had never been fired. Had cobwebs in the barrel.
Really?
Yeah. It was known as a gentleman bandit, never fired a shot, never harmed an individual. And what was worse for his reputation was that he wrote terrible poetry. He left doggerel behind. And for that, he was never forgiven.
So, Glenn, where are we now? Look at this.
This is
place.
the old jail. It's almost like a dungeon when you're back here. And this is where they kept the bad guys, including Black Bart, when they finally captured him.
So, in this row here, Black Bart was held, one of these cells.
Yeah, they kept him overnight here and tried to break him down. He insisted that he was Charles Bolton, a respectable citizen of San Francisco. And they had evidence that he led a double life, and that when he came up here to, quote, check on his mining interests, he was actually robbing the Wells Fargo stage.
So was that his real name, Charles
No,
Bolton? What was his real name?
His real name was Charles Bowles.
Bowles, okay.
Yeah, but he in San Francisco, he changed his name to Charlie Bolton.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how did they come up with Black Bart?
Well, he, on several different holdups, he would leave little scraps of doggerel behind, sort of twitting them, haha, you can't catch me, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he would sign it as Black Bart, the P-O-8.
What does that mean?
Poet. Well, that was his way of saying poet. Poet, P-O-8. Black Bart, the poet.
Yeah, he was just too smart. Smarter than all the cops, he thought.
So anyway, they kept him up till 1 o'clock in the morning under a very intense interrogation. Finally broke him down with the idea there might be some plea bargaining if he would show them where he had hidden the gold from his last holdup, which was up on a Funk Hill. So he took a delegation of people up there, including Sheriff Ben Thorne and a number of town followers, and showed them where he'd hidden the gold in a hollow log. And so then they brought him back here the next day for trial, and that's when they sentenced him to San Quentin.
Right.
Now, of interest, Black Bart had been active for so long that he was a state celebrity. Everybody knew of Black Bart. He would be like maybe O.J. Simpson would be today.
If you are lucky enough to be traveling California Highway 49 in the springtime, this is what you will see. There are beautiful hillsides and valleys covered in magnificent wildflowers. Only 10 and it's the Altaville Schoolhouse. When you see this sign, make sure you pull over and take a look. This is one of the oldest schoolhouses in California, and it is so worth the visit. Well, we totally lucked out. We were able to come in contact today with Bob Rogers from the Angels Camp Museum. Now, you guys also own this schoolhouse here, correct?
That's right. It's part of the Angels Camp Museum now. It was originally part of the Calaveras County Historical Society, and they turned this over to us in July of 2008. And it's very appropriate here, right in Angels Camp. So we're thrilled to have it, and we intend to do some programs here in the future and do some interesting things to get the people involved and children involved to come in and see what we have here.
This is so awesome. Can you tell me a little bit about this school?
Yes, this is one of the oldest schoolhouses in California. It was built in 1858, and it was used, believe it or not, until 1950.
1950?
1950.
Wow.
So it was in continuous use during that time. It's just an exciting thing to have here, to have this artifact, because there's not many schoolhouses that go back to 1850 in California.
And this is so well built.
It's all brick.
Yeah, this is going to be here a long, long time.
It'll be here a long, long time. The bricks were all cast and made in this area. They're from local clay.
Really? Okay.
And a little later on, if you like, I'll show you some of the ones that are not painted in the back wall.
Oh, okay. Is it all right if we go inside and take a look?
Absolutely. Love to show you inside.
Oh, good. Okay, thanks.
Wonderful.
Come on. Oh, look at this place.
Isn't this wonderful?
What is this room used for?
Well, this is an entry vestibule, and I'm not 100% certain, but I think this is probably where the children could eat lunch on days that it was inclement outside, where it was raining or snowing. It's a place where they could leave their coats and hats and galoshes and boots or whatever they came to school in, and so that's what I believe, and it makes sense because when this school was built, they were coming via cart, horse, walking.
Yeah, that's right. You have all the desks set up and everything. Let's go into this room here.
Absolutely.
I want to get a closer look.
This is the main schoolroom here, and you can see we have books, we have slate boards, the old pens, the ink wells that they had in the old days, like Tom Sawyer would put Becky Thatcher's hair into the ink, and I'm sure that happened here. And this is just the way it would have been in that time period.
Do you leave these out all the time so people coming here to visit, just off the highway can come take a look through the windows?
Well, they look through the main windows here. This is not open this way as we have it open today. This is closed off to the public unless we have a special tour that we would invite in here.
But you always leave all these old things out. It looks like the kids just left.
Here, the children would have come in when the school bell in the tower outside rang, and then of course they would come in here, and the school teacher or the school marm would have given it that, and probably for recess she would ring that in here. But you could see the desk, the school teacher's desk, and the pointer that they would have had to point at maps. And as time went on, they developed maps such as these over here in this container they can pull down, and we have the old primers and books ranging from composition and rhetoric to Kit Carson and Davy Crockett.
That's so neat.
And the old potbelly stove.
And these little chairs here.
Little school chairs.
I have a feeling my father-in-law would have been one to sit in one of these chairs.
Well, he could have been, or one of the other ones in a corner.
And then was the teacher the one in charge of keeping the kids warm and cool and all of that, or did she have men come and help her do?
She would have the children do it.
Oh, the children.
The children would be responsible for bringing in the wood and starting the fire in the morning.
Really?
So they had a lot of chores. Along with going to school, they would have been doing chores to maintain the to clean and build the fires, cut the firewood, pick things up after school. So they did everything. These are the original bricks of the building. The others are original also, but these are unfinished and unpainted.
Right.
So this is what they would have looked like in 1858. And as you look through them, you can see they're soft.
They are. They feel different than a regular brick.
Different. They were made from clay on the premises here or in the area, and you can see there were some naughty children around that put initials. And just like today, there's a lot of initials. I don't see any hearts or anything, so.
Yeah, probably naughty boys.
Naughty boys.
Well, I see why you painted them, though, because you just barely touch them and they turn to powder.
That's right, and it's very important that we preserve this as long as we can, because the museum, and our main museum, not only for today, but it's for future generations and 50 years from now and 100 years from now to preserve this heritage and culture that we've had here in Calaveras County. Let's go over to the main museum.
Good, thanks, okay. Well, as you're passing through Angels Camp on Highway 49, you will see so many fascinating things, and I gotta tell you, this is one of them. You can't miss this.
Well,
Tell me about
Tammy.
it.
This is Old Beth. It's a steam traction engine. It's basically a locomotive, and it was used to pull large loads of logs and so forth. It could run on land. It doesn't run on tracks.
Oh,
and it would pull 3 or 4 trailers like this, but just loaded with logs or heavy equipment.
wow. How did you get your hands on this?
This was donated to the museum by the owner in the late 50s.
And it's right in front of the museum, so when you're going down the road, when you see this baby, you know you got to pull in.
That's right, Old Beth. Well, Tammy, let's go in the museum. This is our admissions and gift shop here at the in our front building. There's 2 floors to this building. There's this one. We'll come in. Well, Tammy, we're in the upper building of the museum, and this is only one of 3 buildings. There's 2 floors to this building, and the museum actually sits on over 3 acres of ground.
It does. You would never know from the road.
You would never know from the road.
No.
We have 2 large buildings behind us. We have also some of the nicest picnic grounds in Angels Camp or
Really?
Calaveras County, and we'll go down to those in just a minute. But we have a lot of displays of early pioneer life in here. Several of these rifles and shotguns came over the prairies with the immigrants during the gold rush.
Wow.
But as we walk through the museum back here, you'll see a lot of other interesting artifacts from early California history here. And we have a lot of other artifacts ranging from clothing and a 19th century bedroom and children's, a high chair and
They had
a baby walker.
walkers back then.
They had baby walkers, yes.
Oh, this is
As
awesome.
we
Is this a
come
child's bed? Or is that an adult bed?
It could be either.
Okay.
The adults were not as large as we are.
Oh,
they were
true.
smaller. And what's interesting is this iron collection. I've never seen anything like it. They sold irons by the weight, by their weight in the old days. And this right here is a type of stove that would have been used in a laundry where they would heat all the irons. And here's another one type of stove to heat an
Oh,
iron.
this little thing? Okay.
It had 3 burners.
What they put in here?
It was probably kerosene.
All right. Oh my gosh, that's
So-
interesting. And dangerous.
And dangerous. What was interesting to me, though, is, as I understand it, was told that the ladies' fancy dresses in the 1880s and 1890s with all the pleats and ruffles could take 24 hours to iron.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, I'm not kidding.
Oh my God. So much easier to be a man.
Well, it'd be a man, but also I certainly sent him off to the laundry.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, that is amazing. Bob, where are we now?
Well, we're entering the museum's carriage house. It's a building that's nearly 1/4 of an acre on the inside, and we have one of the finest collections of wagons and carriages in California. And as we come in on the left, we have a very unique horseshoe collection. Each one of these horseshoes is different. And
They are. Look at them.
there's snowshoes, there's shoes for mud, for bogs, for ice. They're all through here. And then we have a very nice Native American collection of implements and artifacts, baskets from this area. And here are some very early photos of Angels Camp that I was telling you about earlier. And we can come back to these and look at them in detail.
Oh yeah, those are great.
And as we walk down through here, we have saddles, side saddles, We have an early hose cart, which was from Angels Camp. Angels Camp had 2 hose carts, one at the top of the hill, one at the bottom of the hill. This was the one that was the top of the hill. The one at the bottom was washed out in the flood, was damaged. We're going to restore it. All these wagons were used on the roads in here. This is the original Angels, Vallecito, Murphy's mail stage. We're very fortunate to have it here. There's a photo of a gentleman up there that actually was they called him messengers in those days. He was a guard. First day he went to work, the stage was robbed, stopped by a robber, and he shot him and killed him.
Lord.
That was the only time in his entire career that he had ever had that experience.
The first day.
The first day that he went to work.
Welcome.
But these are interesting, all these wagons and carriages, and they all have different suspensions. If you look down here, the springs are leather straps. And the stagecoaches use these because apparently they handled better in mud because of the roads during the winter. On our left here, we have what is called a spring wagon. That's the oldest in our collection, and that was used by a farmer in the Valley Springs area. These are carts, and this is more of a pony cart for children. And here's a larger cart, and then we have a governess cart.
And what was that used for?
By a governess that would be taking care of children, and she would take them out for a ride.
And they would
I mean, just the way you do at home, you have a governess and you...
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
As we come into this area, we have 2 Studebaker wagons that were made by the Studebaker Company. Studebaker started out in the gold rush. There were 5 brothers. One came here and he didn't make money panning for gold, so he made wheelbarrows and sold them to the miners.
Oh, good idea.
And made a lot of money. Then he went back and then they started making wagons, Conestoga wagons, covered wagons. We have 6 or 7 Studebakers in here that they made. They made them for the Army. They made chuck wagons. Then eventually, after World War I, they went into cars.
Okay.
So that's where the Studebaker car came from. As we come through here, we have many more wagons and carts. We have an Amish-style wagon that was in the area here.
There's no windows in that. Look at that.
Well, they could roll up these sides. This side is open. They would roll these down and then they would snap them in inclement weather. And they have a little window to look out at the top. Not much. Some of these wagons were actually made here in Angels Camp by wagon makers, and quite frequently the wagon makers were also blacksmiths. But in effect, all of these wagons were used in this area.
This collection you have blows me away. Tell me what we have here.
Well, we have a hearse from the 19th century that was in the Carley family. They had an undertaking business here.
Okay.
And we're very fortunate to have this and all the accoutrements that go with it. If you notice the plumes on the top, they indicate the general age of the person that's died, of the deceased. This would have been a middle-aged person because they're part white, part black. If they're all black, it's an older person. If they're all white, it's a child or a young person. And as we come along here, Tammy, they would actually have nets on the horses also that would indicate they would drape these over the horses. And that would also indicate the age of the person.
Well, Bob, I have to thank you so much for giving us this tour. This really is one of the most spectacular things anyone would ever find on Highway 49 through Calaveras. This is awesome.
Well, I'm glad you could come, and we want you to come back and visit us again because there's so much going on here, and we're constantly moving forward, and more things are happening, so please visit us again.
I would love to.
It was a pleasure having you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tammy.
Well, no visit to Calaveras would be complete without a stop to downtown Angels Camp. And when you're here, make sure you stop and read this historical landmark signs. This one tells you all about the Angels Hotel. This is where Mark Twain first heard the yarn about the Calaveras jumping frog. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Highway 49.